quick. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm grateful for those of you on the call today who've already taken this step to become Matriots members, and we hope as you get to know us, you'll also choose to support us with a contribution. So women like the candidates you're about to meet provide a great inspiration to the members of the Matriots PAC, who total nearly 1,800 women and men from across the state of Ohio who believe in our mission to elect more women to Ohio office, who will create an economy in which women can thrive and prosper. Did you know women hold only 29% of elected offices in Ohio, even though we are 51% of the population, the chief consumer, and the lead caregivers in our families? The Matriots PAC is focused on fixing that. Bold goal, 50% representation in office by 2028. We are nonpartisan, and we have endorsed candidates who are Democrats and Republicans, as well as independents, Greens, and Libertarians. You know, like we do, that while there is a certain sensation of presidential politics every 4 years, it is state and local offices that affect our day-to-day lives. We're focused on school board, city, and county races, and villages and townships this year to truly change the state for the better. Today, we want to give you a first introduction to our May 2020 primary candidates. These are women who have a competitive primary this spring, and there aren't very many of those this year in Ohio. The Matriots, in addition to writing checks to their campaigns, are helping them build power and influence, in part by introducing them to voters and donors during events just like this one. The Matriots believe that when women lead, Ohio prospers. If you'd like to learn more about us or become a member, please visit matriotsohio.com or message me in the chat so we can connect after the event today. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our moderators real quick. So we have two Matriots members with us here today, Bailey Foe, she's representing Northeast Ohio, and Paula Ross representing Northwest Ohio. So Bailey and Paula, if you guys just want to go ahead and come off mute and just share your Matriots why you're a Matriots member and why you're engaged in our work so closely.
I'm Paula Ross, and I have a long history of being involved in politics and in supporting women, but I'm thrilled that now we have an organization that focuses on women and has that as its main goal, because I think women will do a great job, and I think that it, at the very least, the Matriots goal of 50% representation is one we should all support, and I do.
I second that, Paula. My name is Bailey Foal. I've been a member for about 1.5 years now. And my why in joining is different from my why now, I have found. Initially, everything the Matriots represents in terms of supporting women, getting to 50% in Ohio, that was the initial grab for me. And since becoming a Matriot and getting involved on the endorsement committee and finding community within this space, incredible, intelligent, go-getter women, it's been really awesome to be in community. And so that's really become more of my why now is the relationships I've developed in this group. So that's a little bit of my why.
Thank you. And then Bailey, I'll hand it back over to you and we'll get started with our Southwest Ohio candidates.
Great, yeah. So I will be introducing two candidates from Southwest Ohio. Today we have in our first class of 2021 endorsed candidates, two women running for Dayton City Commission, Stacey Benson-Taylor and Shenise Turner-Sloss, two hyphenated names there. They are two of 7 candidates on the ballot for City Commission, competing for 2 available seats. The top 4 vote getters in the primary will move on to the general election in November. Stacey Benson-Taylor, an AFSC ME director, wants to use her life experience to strengthen her community. Shenise Turner-Sloss, also endorsed by the Matriots during her 2019 run, is back on the ballot with her commitment to equitable economic and community development. So Stacey Benson-Taylor, let's start with you. Please share a 5-minute elevator pitch on your candidacy.
Good morning, Matriots. I'm excited to be here this morning for this breakfast. Again, Stacey Benson-Taylor, and I'm a candidate for Dayton City Commission. And I am the candidate who looks to build a brighter future for Dayton. I have been in Dayton my entire life. I'm a graduate of Sinclair Community College, Wright State University, as well as the University of Dayton School of Law. I attended all of those colleges and universities while working in the city. I worked in manufacturing at Delco or Delphi Products or Delphi Chassis. It was a subsidiary of General Motors, before going to the public defender's office, where I worked for 10 years as a paralegal and a legal intern, where we represented juvenile delinquents as well as families whose children have been removed by Children's Services during the reunification process. And so throughout my early career, I've been involved in the community, been involved with helping families get back together and strengthening families. That's always been very, very important to me. And a lot of those families involved women who were the head of household. I was a woman who was a head of household, a single mom. And so I understand the trials and the tribulations that we experience as women with healthcare, with equal pay, with benefits, with childcare, all of those things. And so after 10 years at the public defender's office, I went to work for the union, for AFSCME, where I was a staff rep and the regional director. So for the last 15 years, I have represented working families here in the city of Dayton. And I believe it is that experience that one of the groups that I represented was the City of Dayton employees. And I say was because I actually left my position at AFSCME to run for this office at the Dayton City Commission, because it is a conflict, because we represent public employers. And so I believe that my advocacy for working families, that my experience with the budgets, with the staffing levels, with the services that we provide in the city, that my behind the scenes work has prepared me to not only just advocate for working families, for women, for children in our community, but to advocate for the citizens as a whole. And so that's why I decided to step into this race. I've represented the City of Dayton employees through 2 recessions, the loss of a major airline, the transfer of the convention center, as well as during this terrible COVID pandemic, where I saw women, mothers who were trying to figure out how to balance their work responsibilities with their childcare responsibilities. And so I believe that as a commissioner, our responsibility is to make sure that our vision and our mission statements match how we are treating not only just the employees in the community, but what we are ensuring that our citizens in the community are able to receive. And so that's why I decided to run for office. And that's why I believe that I'll be a great Dayton City Commissioner.
Thanks so much, Stacey. What a great start.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Shenise. Please tell us a little bit about your why.
Yes, absolutely. Good morning. It is a pleasure to be here. As stated, my name is Shenise Turner-Sloss. I am a candidate for Dayton City Commission. So let me just share with you ladies real quick. I am not new to this. This is my third run. Now, mind you, I'll say that I believe that that means that I have a lot of persistence. I'm committed and I'm dedicated to the residents of the city of Dayton and to really going against the grain and pushing that agenda forward for the Matriots and making sure that we have 50% of the women who represent the city of Dayton or in office, period, across the state of Ohio and all of the 88 counties. Again, I'm running because I believe that we need to have equitable development. We need to have fair policies and practices that really speak to the ills in our community. The city of Dayton have had some traumatic events. We were victims of a mass shooting. We've had tornadoes that ravaged through a number of our communities on top of being a global pandemic. There's a number of things that have occurred. And I think that my experience as a former City of Dayton employee speaks to the passion, my experience, it speaks to my knowledge, and it also speaks to my overall commitment to what and how we can transform the city of Dayton to be in that place where each and every one of the city residents can have a decent place to live, work, and play. I want to share with you real quick on the reason why I decided to run for office. I remember coming home from college, and and some of you ladies can definitely relate to this. My mom cleaned out my room. She would pack all my things up and said that was it. She turned my room into an office space. And so I remember coming home from college and going through a number of things. I believe I was looking for my high school diploma. And in the midst of me going through these box of papers, I ran across my mother's pay stub. My mom was a former employee with the VA Medical Center in Dayton. And again, we literally lived probably 7 minutes away from her workplace in the Residence Park neighborhood. The Residence Park neighborhood was a mixed income neighborhood where a lot of families were members of the Dayton Public Schools. They were also members of the manufacturing arena in the city of Dayton at that time. We were the hub of manufacturing for General Motors. It was just very eclectic in the sense of the number of opportunities and employment that the makeup of that area. So I share this story with you, and in the midst of going through all of those boxes and those paperwork, and I ran across my mother past pay stubs, and her past pay stub was reflective of her take-home income, and it was $869. $869 was the amount that my mother was bringing home every 2 weeks. Mind you, I was a product of a single parent home. I had 2 younger brothers, and I just literally stared at that pay stub, not knowing how we were able to make it, with $869. Now, mind you, I'm in my early 20s. I was making more than my mother with 3 kids, and here she was in her 30s, late 30s, 40s, with 3 children with $869. That story alone speaks volume as to where we are today. Many of the families in the city of Dayton, they're struggling. They can't make ends meet. The city of Dayton was named in 2020 as one of the most impoverished cities in the nation, not to mention that we're one of the most segregated. So we have to be intentional about who we're voting for office, and we need people in office who understands the day-to-day struggles. Struggle doesn't have a color. There are so many people in the city of Dayton who are just trying to find a good paying job, a decent place to live, and they want to have their government who is reflective of their needs and who can answer the call of duty, who's not going to play politics for their lives. We're talking about people's lives. We're talking about people's ability to have a decent quality of life. And so what my candidacy brings, again, it brings that experience, it brings that passion. And again, I think that just the simple fact that I've ran 3 times just really speaks value on my commitment. We're very excited about this campaign cycle. One other piece I want to add. So Stacey, Benson-Taylor, and I, we're in this race. I'll say this to you all. In the city of Dayton, we have only had 6 women elected to commission. 6 women in the history of the city of Dayton. Now, let me add another fact to that. Out of those 6 women, only 2 were African American. 2 of those women were and are, members of the Matriots. One is our former mayor, Ryan McGlynn. And then the second, my dear heart, that we had recently lost was former Commissioner Idota Busi-Neal. And I share that with you all because these were women who were servant leaders, who raised the bar and who really pushed the envelope on how we best address the residents' need by being out of the box thinking, having the foresight and having the will and the ability to go against the grain and to run for office. Considering the fact that we are in a patriarchal society, we're dealing with racism, sexism, all of the above affect women who are seeking office. And so I'm very excited about this election cycle. I think there's a new energy in the air, not only in the city of Dayton, but across the country. People are giving voice to those issues. We saw that in the past administration in 45, hence the reason why the Matriots was developed itself in 2017 during the Women's March. And I also believe that with that, the summer of protest, people took to the street and they want to see something different. They want to know that they, in fact, can have authentic candidates who's really going to push to those issues, and that's need to be done through policy programming and how best to implement the dollars that we do have in our community to service everyone. Again, this is not about race, this is not about economic status or education. This is about how do we really start answering the call of the needs of the people in our various communities. Too many people are suffering, and it's time that we do something different. Thank you very much. I look forward to answering any questions. And again, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Wow, thank you both. Shenise, you mentioned authenticity, and I think both your and Stacey's authenticity as candidates is displayed by your depth of knowledge on the issues, which is just inspiring. And Dayton will be lucky to have you both. Quickly, I would like to offer a question to both of you. Stacey, will go back to you. If you could give us some insight as to why local politics matter in Dayton specifically. Tell us more about the climate in your city for this race.
So local politics matter in Dayton because, as Shenise said, we were a manufacturing city. And there are so many people who looked at Dayton and looked at manufacturing, General Motors, as being the option. And so when the factories left and manufacturing left, we were left with a lot of hopelessness and not a lot of vision as it relates to improving lives. And so local politics is where those changes come into play. That's where we have the ability to make policy to impact poverty, to impact education, to impact living wages. I've had the opportunity to negotiate contracts where we had an entry-level salary that was minimum wage. And when minimum wage went up, the employees were making less than minimum wage. And so we had to go in. I've negotiated several contracts where we have been able to get the $15 per hour as the starting rate, because that is a good living wage. And so local politics is where we make that policy. We have to do better with economic development. We have to build our neighborhoods from the inside out. We have to begin to own what is in our neighborhoods. We have to begin to own where we spend our money. We have to look at the housing crisis. When jobs left, there became a housing crisis because now we have a lot of vacant properties, a lot of vacant lots. And so our policies have to match the problems that we have in our city. I recognize there are challenges and obstacles. It takes between 85 and 120 jobs to pay for one city job. That means we have to have employers paying taxes into the city to develop the policies and balance the budgets to pay for the services. So we have to be creative. And so women in local politics add that creativity, that problem solving, that way of looking at issues, that way of balancing the budget, trying to figure out where we take and we do more with less. For whatever reason, women, we think outside of the box. And so the perfect place for us to be is in local politics. We cannot continue, based upon the challenges and obstacles, to look at the problems the exact same way. We have to be in the game in order for the game to change. And I think that's what, as women, we will do for Dayton.
Thanks so much, Stacey. I love that. We have to be in the game to make sure the game changes. that, excuse me, Shenise, we're going to transition over to you now. You ran an incredibly strong campaign in 2019, and the Matriots were pleased to be on the team that came very close to winning. What are the issues you want to make sure are addressed this time around, and how are you going to make this campaign a little different?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. So I am proud to say that in our 2019 race, we ran a very competitive race. We fell short by 4 percentage points. And let me tell you, uh, we were outnumbered, outspent, but yet and still we had a 4% gap. And so hence the reason why I decided to run again, because we were so close. And so this time around, we're even more energized. We're mobilizing the residents in the community. I like to take the opportunity whenever I get a means to do so is to brag on our team. I like to consider our team the brain trust because they have the intellect, they have the skills, they have the ability and the knowledge. Some of them are former candidates themselves. They've ran a number of elections, from the state issues to state candidates to local elections. So we have a wealth of experience that's really going to push our candidacy and our campaign forward to take the win for this election cycle. Some of the issues that we are pushing, and that, let me just share this as well. So you talk about being in the game, and I appreciate that, Stacey, because I, in fact, have been in the game for over 15 years, speaking to these issues. I like to joke. A lot of people, they look at me and they say, "Are you even old enough to run for office?" And I tell them, yes, in fact, I am. But 15 years, I've been pressing these issues in terms of we have to make sure that we are addressing the needs of our community members, of our residents. We've gotten away from that. The city of Dayton, you talk about politics, it is heavy in politics. We have one particular party that controls the politics in Dayton proper and Montgomery County in its entirety. And so we have to change that to make sure that there are opportunities for those who are not necessarily a part of the status quo to have the opportunity to raise their voice, to give voice to those issues that the residents are speaking about, that the residents are taking to the streets, that the residents are going to the commission members and raising those issues during the number of Wednesday morning or Wednesday night meetings, whether it's with the commission or with the school board. But these are the issues that are affecting the residents. And so again, I talked about poverty. That is something that has loomed in our community for quite some time. When we lost that the manufacturing realm of opportunities and jobs, that was a huge crush to the city of Dayton, not to mention the economic blow that we experienced in the 2008-2010 crisis. Then you fast forward, and then we had, again, I mentioned the number of tornadoes, and then now we're in a global pandemic. Like, we've been hit with a number of traumatic events in the city of Dayton. And so we need people that are going to, let me correct myself. We need women in office who are going to press those issues, and that's going to speak truth to power, and that's going to make sure that we back it up with not just some flowery language, but some policy, some programming, as well as the funding to address those core issues. There are some systematic issues that are affecting the city of Dayton. When I spoke about racism, that is something that has, and Dayton is not unique to that situation by no means. We know that it is the ugly truth of our American history. But the city of Dayton has been operating under those restrictive policies for quite some time. And so we need people in office that's going to really shake things up and be able to have the ability to reverse that restrictive policy, so that we can have a more equitable community, so that we can make sure that those who are in poverty, that we can lift them up out of poverty. 90% of our students in Dayton Public Schools are living in poverty. That's telling. The data is there. To me, I don't, for the life of me, don't understand why it took from 2020 for us to even recognize that we were one of the most impoverished cities. People in the city of Dayton, they're struggling. You can see the looks of hopelessness that's on their faces. And people really want to know that they have someone in office that's going to push to those issues. So that's what my candidacy speaks to. We're also pushing the fact that people need a decent, affordable housing. Affordable housing is one thing. When we talk about decent, affordable housing, I'll share with you this real quick. So we know that this year we're going into redistricting and making sure that we have fair and equitable lines and representation, right? And so this past summer, I had the opportunity to work with the census the census, and that experience was very telling within itself, because when you're knocking on doors and you're canvassing for your candidacy or for some particular issue or a presidential candidacy, you go to a number of the homes that you who have been identified, as the most likely to vote. But when you're out knocking doors and you're having conversations with people in the community through the eyes of the census, and you have to count every household, you're counting every person, you're counting everybody. It was very telling to see that people in the city of Dayton are living in homes that are completely boarded up, from the back doors to the front doors to the windows. People in the city of Dayton don't have legal running water or electricity. The quality of life, people are really, truly suffering. And we need to have individuals in office who understands that, who has the compassion and who can really relate to the issues and who want to best solve those issues, again, with policy. Policy is the answer. And we have to have people who understand that in office. So those are the issues that we're definitely speaking about in our candidacy, in our campaign, and that we're going to work towards, and that we have been working towards for the past 15 years, even as my position as a former City of Dayton employee. I've always spoke about those issues, and quite honestly, I've given a number of recommendations that the city current administration and past administration has adopted. Some of those recommendations fell on deaf ears, but nonetheless, we're here and we're excited about our candidacy. And if they won't do it, we darn sure will. So thank you.
Thank you, Shenise and Stacey, for your incredible depth of knowledge and your work so far in getting to know Dayton and its constituents. I'm sure when we open up questions to everybody in the end, you'll have an opportunity to share a little bit more even. So we are going to transition now to my stomping grounds, Northeast Ohio, and I will be introducing two candidates here, Georgia Awig and Cheryl Saffold. So Georgia is a candidate for North Ridgeville City Council at large. She is one of 6 Republican candidates on the ballot. The top 3 vote getters will move on to the general election. Awig was narrowly defeated for a council seat in 2015, and as with many women endorsed by the Matriots, had the tenacity to get right back on and run the race again. She takes a dozen years of community involvement into her experience for the race. Cheryl Saffold is running for re-election in Warren City Council, Ward 6. Cheryl won her first city council race in 2009 and has served on council ever since. Cheryl will face one competitor in the partisan primary election. So keeping things moving along here, I'm going to first hand the microphone over to Georgia to give us her 5-minute elevator pitch on her why.
Thank you, Bailey. I'd like to thank the Matriots for endorsing me in the primary election for the at-large city council position and giving me a chance to tell about myself and my vision for the city of North Ridgeville. I'm Georgia Awig, wife, mother, grandmother, registered nurse, Mary Kay sales director, and a very active member of our community. I've been married to Don for over 46 years, and together we have 2 children and 10 grandchildren. Yes, the latest was born just early this morning. Luckily, we were able to spend Easter weekend in Virginia at our son's house with all of them. Since we live in the Cleveland area, our daughter and her family live in Troy, Ohio, and our son's family lives in Virginia. It's challenging for us to all get together more than a few times a year. I graduated from Kent State University in 1972 with a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing and have been a registered nurse for almost 50 years. During that time, I have worked in many capacities, including bedside nursing in hospitals, long-term care facilities, and home health care for both pediatric and adult patients. I've taught nursing in both diploma programs and at the local community college. I was director of nursing in both long-term care facilities and for a home health care agency. My last position was as an administrative director in home health care. Now I serve as a patient advocate for family and friends using all my past experiences. For the past 24 years, I've also been a Mary Kay sales director, earning the use of 13 career cars, including the pink Cadillac. My community involvement includes being a board member of both the Chamber of Commerce and Community Care, as well as a member of the Heart and Soul Consortium, Visitors Bureau, Lorain County Fair Housing Board, and Lorain County Health Department Medical Reserve Corps. Previously, I've been on the board of directors for our cluster as well as our homeowners association. Since I've lived in Northeast Ohio my entire life, have been very involved in our community, and with children and their families living far away, I feel I have the time and energy to devote to being politically involved at the local level where important decisions are made. I feel that you're never too old to make a difference in people's lives. I'm great at communicating with people of all ages and easily establish relationships. My experience in corporate America, as well as being an entrepreneur, is a valuable asset. Currently, our city council consists of 7 members, with only 1 being a female. Recently, when the second woman who was on city council was elected to a county commissioner position, she was replaced with a male candidate. And that was, there were about 24 that applied, including myself, and I was told that I was the top runner coming out of the precinct committee. Our council is known as the Good Old Boys Club, and I want to change that. There are currently 4 men and 2 women running for 3 positions in the primary election. North Ridgeville is one of the safest and fastest growing communities in the state. It's my goal to make it the best place to live, work, play, shop, and dine. Route 20, which is our main avenue through town, has been under construction for several years and is nearing completion this year. In addition, we have an exit of 480 and the turnpike in our town, making our location very attractive to businesses. In addition to adding businesses to help, excuse me, hold on a second. With our tax base, my main concern is the safety and health of our residents. I was very excited to learn about the Matriots, as my beliefs closely align with theirs. Daily, I empower women to have control over their lives and that of their families. It's very likely that a woman will be single and have to support herself during her lifetime. We need to have women-friendly policies developed at the local, state, and national levels. I decided that I've gained a lot of knowledge during my lifetime and can help my generation as well as future generations. I appreciate the encouragement and support that the Matriots are giving me as I seek the position of City Council at-large position.
Thanks so much, Georgia. And Cheryl, if you would like to share a little bit about your campaign now.
Good morning, everyone. I too would like to thank the Matriots for this wonderful opportunity and for the endorsement. I, Cheryl Saffold, have served in Warren City Council for 12 years. I am motivated to stay the course. My past experiences on City Council, coupled with my education, has made my tenure a successful one. I would like to talk about politics being a part of my bloodline. My grandparents were charter members of the Jeffersonian Club, which was one of the first integrated political organizations in Trimble County, Ohio. And again, this was in the 1950s. My mother was a precinct committee person for over 20 years. My father has run for local politics, city and county offices. And my stepsister, former U.S. Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, now HUD secretary under the Biden administration, is also a family member. So I stand on the shoulders of not only my family members, but I stand on the shoulders of Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams, Marcia Fudge, and my hero, Shirley Chisholm, who her mantra was, unbought and unbossed. You know, I'd like to share one of her quotations, and it is that women should be revolutionaries. I consider myself to be a revolutionary, a change agent, so to speak. So I am here to make a difference, not only for the Black race, not only for the white race, but for the human race. And so I would like to touch on some of my past notable accomplishments, if I may. Serving as a legislative committee chairperson, I spearheaded the closing of several illegal massage parlors in the city of Warren, Ohio. We were known as the massage parlor capital in the state of Ohio. So I, along with the Ohio Attorney General's office, we were able to shut down 8 out of 10 massage parlors in our city. As chairperson of community development, I have steered millions of dollars of HUD money to nonprofits in our city, to homelessness, as well as to various infrastructure projects in our city. So overall, I'd like to say that I am motivated, I am determined, and I am anxious to continue serving not only the people in the 6th Ward in Warren, Ohio, but for the residents in the city of Warren, Ohio.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. It's clear that both of you bring a diversity of experience between the two of you in your respective areas to this campaign. For the sake of time, we are going to postpone the follow-up questions, and we are going to move on to Northwest Ohio, which is going to be led by Paula. Paula, you are muted.
Got it. Thank you, Bailey.
Your camera's off now, just so you know.
Oh. All right, if I got them both on. All right. So I'd like to introduce Sharetta Smith. Sharetta is a candidate for mayor of Lima. And as mayor of Lima, she would be part of a vanishingly small group of women mayors in Ohio, especially Black women mayors. Although in Toledo, we did have a Black woman mayor not too long ago. In fact, right now, Ohio has only one female Black mayor in Annette Blackwell in Maple Heights, and she is a 2019 Matriots-Endorsed Candidate. So Sharetta, we'd like to see you join that group, and I would ask you now to give us your 5-minute elevator pitch.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for having me here this morning. And also thank you to the Matriots for your endorsement. As Paula stated, my name is Sharetta Smith, and I'm running for mayor for the city of Lima. Just a little bit about me and my family. My roots in this community extends across 5 generations. My grandparents moved to Lima almost 80 years ago from the deep South to work in Lima steel mills. And so I grew up here in this city, surrounded by a community of what I call hardworking, caring people who taught me above all else that despite tough times, we should always believe that better days are ahead. 5 years ago, I was a magistrate judge in Chattanooga. I was practicing law and growing a practice as well. 2 of my children were in college, but Chattanooga was not home. And as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz once said, there's no place like home. And I began to look for an opportunity to come back and serve. And so I was reading the local newspaper one day and saw that the current director of community development was retiring from their position. And so I called our current mayor, Mayor David Berger, and introduced myself to him. I didn't know him. We met once at an event before, and I told him that I was interested in the job. And so I came here to work. He actually did not hire me as his director of community development. He asked me if I would be willing to come serve as his chief of staff. And so I've been here working for the city of Lima for almost 5 years, working side by side with Mayor Berger. What's that has looked like is managing our $38 million operating budget with another additional $30 million in enterprise funds. We have 7 departments, roughly 400 employees, and really working to build relationships and get things done with all of our stakeholders, including our council members and residents, and most importantly, serving the almost 38,000 people that call Lima home. A little over 120 days ago now, I launched a campaign to become Lima's next mayor. And as Paula said, Lima's first female mayor, and also Lima's first African-American mayor, and Lima's first African-American female mayor. So there's a lot of firsts in there. So the stakes are really high for this race. But, you know, I come to work every day with a deep understanding of this community and the people of this community. I am also the child of a union worker. My mother has worked at General Motors for 40 plus years. She's there this morning as well. I have a father that is also a retired union worker, but he's also a formerly incarcerated individual. And I watched him, you know, go to prison, get out and rebuild his life and work that same job until he retired. I've also been a young mom on public assistance. The whole time that I was going through college and law school, I worked my way through school, you know, with my children while raising my children. I am a cancer survivor. And so I say that I'm a fighter, and I fought my way out of poverty and these other issues by my faith, my family, and even my friends. But that is also what fuels me to come back home and want to run for this office. Over the past few months that we've been knocking on doors, we've been really listening to the Lima residents about what they say their priorities are. And what I'm hearing here in Lima, which is no different than what I've heard you all say about your communities, is that people are concerned about what I call bread and butter issues. And if I had to sum it up, I would say that, you know, they want safe streets, smarter kids, growing businesses, a strong economy, and thriving neighborhoods. And for me, that looks like, you know, living wage jobs. That looks like being able to have those safety nets that are available to families when they do run into rough times. That looks like a responsive government that residents know when they call and they have an issue, there is someone that picks up the phone at City Hall that's not just going to take their complaint, but listen to their complaint and walk with them until that complaint is solved. The other thing about Lima is that 26.5% of our population lives in poverty, but the largest demographic of that poverty section are females aged 25 to 34. And also 40% of our households are single family households. And so and they're headed by women. And so when I look at Lima and I look at, you know, why I'm running and why I even do what I do as chief of staff, I'm fighting for people that honestly I see every day when I look in the mirror. And so that's what fuels me to want to keep going. And that is also my inspiration and passion for running.
Thank you, Sharetta. I think you've inspired us all. And I'd like to hand this back to Bridget, who I think wants to engage the audience a little more.
Yes, so we can open it up for audience questions. If anyone has a question, feel free to come off mute right now and ask it, or just drop it in the chat. Any questions? Okay, if we don't have any questions, oh, sorry, someone coming off mute.
Yeah, I have a question. I put it in the chat, but I would, my name is Ellen Greenbush, and I live in Port Clinton, Ohio. I would like to have an opportunity to talk with the candidates about campaign finance reform. I'm with American Promise in Ohio, and we're working to get a constitutional amendment to stop the flow of big and dark money into elections. The reason why this is so important, I think, to female candidates is that you all know how difficult it is to raise money, to run for office, and how the pipeline of money flows into super PACs and anonymous donors. And it really prevents women, people of color, young people, new candidates from running for office. So if I know that I can't use this forum to talk about it, but if you all would be willing to contact me or to give me your email address and phone number, I could talk to you for about 15 minutes about this issue. And I think it really affects social justice, economic justice, all kinds of issues. So please feel free to give me some contact information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Yes, and for the candidates, you can get directly in contact with me for her contact info, and she put it in the chat for everyone. We had another question come through. We'll answer real quick. So Lisa Freeman Williamson is just asking what sets you apart from your competitors. We'll start with Sharetta and then go back up to Stacey, just so everyone gets a chance to answer.
I think outside of, my education and experience, I'm a trained attorney, and Stacey, you can appreciate once you're a lawyer, you always think like a lawyer. And I think that is very valuable, whether you are, going into the executive branch as I am, or the legislative branch as other candidates are, to be able to just look at things analytically and be able to build consensus with community on solving problems. Because one of the biggest challenges I think, at least as I've seen as, from my seat as chief of staff, is how do you get what sometimes appears to be competing interests to that at this end of the day, we all want the same thing, and getting individuals in the room to make decisions that are best overall for our community. The second thing I think is my passion. I mean, I live, eat, breathe, and sleep this community. I mean, there's not a block in the city of Lima that I can't walk down or go to and point to a house where I know that family who's been there for generations, and really understand intimately the issues that they deal with and what their challenges and concerns are, but also what their hopes are for this city. I think those are the two main things that set me apart from my competitors.
Thank you. Georgia, what sets you apart from your competitors?
Okay, I would say definitely my age and experience that I've had over 70 years. And also the ability to commit time to the job. I have always been very good about attending activities, and I plan to continue on that. I find that others don't always have that time because of other responsibilities in terms of a job or family. The fact that I'm a woman, there's one other woman running, but the other 4 are men. And the fact that I live and work in North Ridgeville, not all of them do. And also the fact that I'm endorsed by the Matriots, I think is a very good plus. And I feel honored to be in the presence of all these awesome women.
Fantastic, thank you. Cheryl, what about you?
Well, I would like to say that my past experiences as a legislator, that's 12 years, coupled with my education, has allowed me to successfully serve on city council. I attended Howard University in Washington, D.C., the University of Cincinnati, and I too have a Juris Doctor degree, law degree from Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas. I have a proven track record. I've done the work, and again, I believe that I am the best choice for the 6th Ward Council seat in Warren, Ohio.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Stacey, what about you?
Thank you. I think what sets me apart is the fact that I have had to have tough conversations across the table from elected officials for my entire career. That's what I have signed up to do. And so I'm not afraid of the tough questions. I'm not afraid of the conversations. I'm not afraid to push back. You know, it positions me to have a good understanding of what happens behind the scenes. But often people think that as the union rep, we sit in the room with people and we, you know, are just sitting in there chopping it up. No, we push back, and that gives me the experience to be able to have conversations, build relationships. Relationships is not about agreeing, it is about having a relationship so that I can sit down and have those conversations. And I think my experience makes me unique in that factor, is that even though a lot of people are coming forward because they disagree with what has been done, I've been able to do that and make changes. And so I think that's what sets me apart.
Yeah, that's great. And last but certainly not least, Shenise.
Yes, thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. I think there are a number of things that set me apart from the other candidates. For one, I am a product of Dayton Public Schools. I know the fabric of the city of Dayton. I've lived here. I've had the opportunity to live other places as well. But just my education along with being a graduate of Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, a graduate of Central Michigan, where I have my master's degree, and also my experience, as I stated, from working in the local government. A lot of the things that people talk about we need to do or we should do, they don't necessarily have that on the job experience or on the job training. I've done the work. I've managed the city of Dayton's federal and state funds. I've had those relationships with the city of Dayton residents. And in its unique fashion, by starting with the city of Dayton as a community service advisors under our used to be a national recognized citizen participation form of government, which was our priority boards. So I like to think of that as my training grounds, where I was able to build those relationships with a number of the residents and the community leaders, the businesses and the stakeholders. So that brings a unique perspective itself. And then fast forward into my experience with the federal government. I have the experience of working with, having conversations and interfacing with senior executive leaders, to GS-15s and so on and so forth. So that gives me that unique experience. Again, just being on the ground. And then I'll also add to that, I am one of the co-founders of Neighborhoods Over Politics. We are a nonprofit in the city of Dayton, and we push towards advocating for sustainable neighborhoods, as well as we provide training for a number of organizations and neighborhoods. And again, I've always spoke to these issues. I'm not a one issue candidate. I'm not jumping for office because I want to seek political ambitions to go to next office. This is something that I'm very passionate about. And, you know, we also talk about during this trail, we have these conversations, there's a difference between passion and experience. And that's absolutely true. And I have both of those. And I also believe that this is my calling. This is my calling. These are things that I have deep conversations with my family and my friends. My husband is a sociologist, and we talk about these issues at the dinner table. So again, I bring that unique experience because I have had firsthand experience by living in poverty myself, by growing up in a single parent home, by not even knowing that, you know, we had these challenges, but we were able to still have a decent roof over our head. We were still able to have food on our table. And again, just living in the city of Dayton, having the ability to work through those various issues, pushing through change brings me to the table and provides me a unique perspective. And I am the candidate of choice. And hence the fact, like, this is my third time, right? that speaks volume, I believe. So again, I'm very excited about this race. And I will say this too, last but not least, but I think it's important to point out that, and I mentioned this before, that this is different energy. We have 7 candidates in this race. And I know other parts of the state of Ohio, city of Cincinnati, they have a very competitive race themselves. But I think that speaks value on the time that we're in the city of Dayton. People want new leadership, and they know that there is a thirst and a calling for new intentional leadership in the city of Dayton who has the experience to do the job.
Thank you so much, ladies. Way the Facts wishes you all the best of luck.
Thank you.
Yo.
Fantastic. So thank you for all of our candidates who are running this year. We had one candidate who had to jump off the call, unfortunately, Alison Giraldo, but she will be sitting in a video just introducing herself to you all. So we'll send that out to everyone. I just have a quick few words to leave us today. So the crisis of the past year has only underscored that we need more women in office. If you agree with our mission, we invite you to join us by becoming a Matriots member and making a contribution. These are the first 6 women that we hope to endorse over the course of 2021, but we hope to endorse 200 women total. To do that, we need to raise $1 million, and we're going to do it by 100 and 200 and 500 and $1,000 contributions at a time. So good luck to our candidates on May 4th, and thank you all so much for joining our conversation today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care and
Thank
be
you,
safe.
everyone.
Where is she? Sharetta. Where'd she go? Share. Okay.
Hey, Kim.